Joined now here on GCR. It's great to catch up with our next guest. Got to know him a year ago, and now he's getting ready for a spot in the rotation this season with the Baltimore Orioles. Down from Sarasota, we check in with Orioles pitcher Cole Irvin, who's with us now on the program. Cole, it's Glenn. It's great to see you again, man. Thanks so much for spending the time with us.
Yeah, thanks, Glenn, for having me on. I'm excited to be back with you guys.
So I remember you are a racing fan, correct?
Yep.
Are you like the 500 last weekend? Were you like glued? Were you all in, or is it more like, yeah, I'll find out who won. I don't really care week to week. It's not that big of a deal to me.
So the way I start my spring training off is we do a little Daytona 500 pool,
Okay.
and so that's kind of how I've done it the past 4 seasons and stuff like that. So I'm all in. I mean, I live in Racing City, USA, over near Mooresville, North Carolina. So know all the NASCAR guys and do some iRacing and stuff as well. And I was actually at there was a PRO event, which is drag racing, funny cars, top fuel dragsters and stuff, the week before camp started. So
that's cool.
Any style of racing, I'm in on.
Is it something that you could viably see yourself attempting to do in the future, or like, hey, baseball's been good to me. I don't think I have to worry about whatever my future is going to be.
Let's just focus on the career now. I'd love to. I'd love to be in racing in some capacity down the road. But
it's cool.
I think the racing simulator kind of gives me my fix in the off season.
Who had William Byron in the Daytona pool?
Bruce Zimmerman won his second year in a row. It's a little disappointing.
Now, how does that? Now you got to start wondering if this thing is fixed. Does he know? Did he know who William Byron was? Did you have to let him know?
So the way we do it is we do a pick 3 snake draft, 12 people, and then we do a DNF pot as well. So if your car does not finish the race, which is Daytona 500, there's going to be plenty of cars not finishing the race. There's a little bit of extra cash that goes to the fastest lap of the race. Well, he ended up winning fastest lap of the race with another one of his drivers, had all 3 drivers finish, and had the lowest points total, and he just took away the pot.
Look at the horseshoe up Bruce's ass, man. This is crazy. That is unbelievable, man. Okay, so and then we'll move on to baseball because I know that's what people actually care about here. But do you like the speedway racing, like the thing where someone could be behind the pack all day, but all it takes is one wreck that they might have been involved with to begin with, and that's how they win the race, and everybody says it's not really fair. Like, do you dig that because it's different, or does it bother you as a racing fan?
I think restrictor plate racing is fun in some capacity. Yeah. I enjoy parts of it, but I think for me, I enjoy this weekend's going to be in Atlanta, so I'll be watching that one because that they changed the track and made some updated features, and there's a little bit more of a kind of driver's track, but it's still high speed. Coke 600 is probably my race that I like to watch the most.
That's the Charlotte one,
now
right?
My hometown, yeah, it's in Charlotte.
Yeah.
So, that's a really fun event. So that'll be a bucket list race that I'll get to down the road. But
what is the fastest in any of these things that you've done? What's the fastest you've ever traveled in a vehicle?
Probably about 163. I think it was the last time I went that fast.
What does it feel like? Honest, I've never, most of us will never experience this. What does it actually feel like when you're going that fast?
Well, in this case, it was my personal vehicle 4 or 5 years ago, and I had a Mustang GT, and I got it on a racetrack and just got it up as fast as I could. And as soon as I got it up to that speed, I said, absolutely not. I brought it way back down. But I had to feel it. My windows were up and stuff like that. So I would love to get in a stock car. That's a bucket list thing for me to get into a stock car and drive that around.
That'd be really cool.
Charlotte or another track.
Well, I was gonna say now the plan's got to be go win the World Series so you can be the Grand Marshal at Daytona next year, right?
Now that would be awesome. That would be
pretty cool. That's the way that it's got to work. Cole Irvin with us here on GCR. Cole, I remember we were chatting last year. I really appreciate your perspective because it was, after you had struggled early on and you were like, no, if I'm going to end up being in the bullpen at the end of the year, let's go ahead and do that. And I appreciated that because I think for a lot of guys, it was difficult to go through that and all of that last year. And then I guess what was the off season for you preparing to be in the bullpen, and then everything flips when we get some news, or are you preparing to be a starter and compete for a starter role? Like, what was the off season like after kind of all of the craziness of a year ago?
So I took a week off from the end of our season to start my programming. Typically, I'm taking about 2 weeks off to give my body a full rest. But last year, with only having 77 or so, big league innings, I was pretty pissed off with my performance. Now you can look at the tale of two halves, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can look at my first three starts and then look at the rest of the year, or you can look at the first half and second half. And I looked at neither. I looked at the overall. I said, that's not good enough. That's not to my standard. And I attacked this off season to prepare to come in and win a job. We had some pretty, we had guys that are slotted into the rotation, but you never know. And that's the good thing about having teammates that are your friends and competitors is everyone had the same thought. So everyone had a really good off season. I think the way we lost in the postseason, left a bitter taste in our mouth, and a lot of us got after it. And so my off season training the intent was to, okay, whatever role they decide for me, that's their decision. I'm coming in with the starter mindset,
Yeah.
and I'm going to change, the way I throw my sinker. I'm going to throw throw the slider more of a sweeper. I'm going to throw the cutter harder, and I'm going to throw more of like a gyro curveball that's
Wow.
similar to Jordan Montgomery. Like, I'm trying to make some changes to uh, my arsenal to really turn some heads.
So okay, that's a lot, right? Like that's a lot of pitch changes that you're talking about. Boy, is it? When I say is it too much? I know the answer is what it can't be because you did it. But were you worried about making so many changes to your arsenal during the course of one off season?
No, and the reason being is that all the changes that I made were small tweaks to
Okay.
get a steam to catch, or to get, maybe a little bit more behind the ball, and use my legs a little bit more than I typically have in the past. And like my strength workouts were geared towards how to put force into the ground and use it to my strengths and my ability. Um, the foundations that I already have. So it had a lot more to do with how do I grow from, okay, yeah, I'm a command pitcher. I pitch in and out. I know how to throw strikes, but how do I expand that? How do I make that stuff better? And it was all just making small tweaks and adjustments that weren't uh, overbearing. But I mean, I think a lot of it, the reason I found success by making those adjustments is just because I do have a lot of feel on my fingertips and
Okay.
in my body. Like, I focus on those feels, and it's easy for me to maybe make an adjustment when I've been that way my whole career.
I'm thinking specifically about the gyro ball, right? You guys have so much technology, so much data now, and I'm sure that you were using that technology this offseason as you're working on these pitches. Is there something like a spin rate? Was there any number that, like, when as you were working on this pitch, you hit it and you say, okay, now I know it works. Now I know that I can put this in and this will work against major league hitters?
You don't know until you face those major league hitters.
Yeah.
And for me, that was, I faced Chad Pinder before I left for the offseason.
Okay.
He, retired last season and was my old teammate in Oakland. But he gave me some good feedback before I came out here. And in my lives the other day, I had some fantastic feedback from, Santander, Georgie, Cedric. All the guys were giving me great feedback for me to expand on in my bullpens and stuff like that. But it doesn't really kind of click until you face hitters and um, you try to put it into a game like situation.
I asked this question, and again, I know that some of these things are silly because you're hell bent in every circumstance. You're a professional athlete, but at the same time, given what you went through a year ago in a new place, did you find yourself more, like sort of chomping at the bit? Did you find yourself more hell-bent, more driven over the course of the offseason to say, that's not the story of who I am. I'm going to rewrite that this season?
Yeah, I think, you have to be honest with yourself in anything that you do, and reflect on performance, reflect on, your dedication to your craft. And this offseason was one of those that I said, all right, I wasn't happy with where my weight was. I mean, I
Hmm.
was at like 236 to 238. And now I'm down anywhere between, 223 to 226. Um, and, that was an emphasis. Okay, I'm going to eat better. I'm going to be a little bit more clean. And then how do I move my body a little bit more quicker now that I have the weight off? That was a new, you know, change for my programming, but we figured that out. And so it's this off season, I was so hell bent on making better changes for not just for myself, but for my career.
Yeah.
And I was focused on day-to-day processes that I think at the end of the day, uh, will help the team, which is the end goal, is to, put ourselves in the best position that we can to help the team win as many ball games as we can. And that's the end goal. And sometimes you got to be honest with yourself: is did you achieve that in the previous season, or the previous off season, and how did that set yourself up? So I'm really excited about this season.
The most difficult thing that you either had to give up in the process of losing a little bit of weight, or the most difficult thing that you had to learn to enjoy eating that you don't really actually enjoy eating was what?
Ooh, that's a good question. I think it had more to do with not eating like my croissant sandwiches or like bagel sandwiches
Okay.
like in the mornings. I'm a
Okay.
big bread guy in the mornings, and
It's the
so I
devil, man.
got off of it,
God.
and that was difficult.
I was down, so I gave up bread a few years ago. And I don't want to pretend like I'm in like svelte shape or anything like that, but I was down in South Florida. We took my kids on a Disney cruise in January, and I'm down in South Florida. I'm sitting in a deli, and I look up and I see like a Cuban sandwich on the menu, and I'm like, what? I have to, like, I just have to. I can't deny.
Absolutely.
How do you deny yourself in that moment getting a Cuban when you're in Miami? You
So
can't
I
do it.
mean, my downfall is empanadas.
Oh
If I see an
God.
empanada on a menu, I'm
Oh,
absolutely crushing them.
bro.
I have my old teammate Frankie Montas to thank for that one.
I used to work in D.C. and there was one particular place. You go out in Georgetown and there was like an empanadas street, a place across the street. And after an evening of drinking, I think I crushed hundreds of empanadas during the course of that time. Damn, I don't blame you whatsoever when it comes to that. Cole Irvin with us here on GCR. The excitement of all of this right now, and I get that, like, at the professional level, you lose guys that you like when you make a trade, but to be on a team that goes out and gets a Corbin Burnes and says, "No, we're going for it." What does that do for everybody? Like, I know you guys were already good, and you guys had just won 101 games in the division, but like to make that proclamation as a franchise, what does that do for everyone when you show back up together during the course of a spring?
I think it brings a little bit more excitement to spring, especially getting Corbin. A lot of guys throw cutters here, and I think a lot of guys have been picking his brain on it.
Hmm.
And it's been fun to get to know him. He's a great teammate, but he knows how to pitch in the postseason, and that's the guy we got. And so the intent is to, okay, we made the postseason last year, but what did we do with that? How did we learn from it? And uh, when you go and get Corbin Burnes to lead the staff, who's a workhorse for you, who's 200 plus innings, in a season, he's going to do great things. And I think the expectation from his end too is, okay, you guys were in the postseason last year. Let's get back there. I want to help you guys. I want to win a World Series too. And so the expectation in the room for all of us is being better than we were a season ago.
Yeah.
Whether how we get to the playoffs, I don't think matters. I think it's now, okay, we know what to do to win games in the postseason. We just need to get there and then focus on that process.
The bit do you have to almost trick yourself into believing that you're still it looks like right now you're safely in the rotation, right? Given the circumstances with John and with Kyle. But do you have to like trick yourself to, in your mind, say that's not the case whatsoever? Like, I'm not safe, just to bring out that highest level of competitor in you.
Yeah, I think Tyler Wells and I are close and we've talked countless about just sticking to the day-to-day process.
Yeah.
Being a part of like, okay, he and I are staying at a team hotel and we're like, okay, let's go use the grill. Let's go like making sure that we're staying accountable for, you know, being healthy and focusing on what we need to do to be ready to take that ball every fifth day or sixth day. Um, and I think that's just the level of competition, whether Kyle and John are in the rotation or not. I think that was going to be the intent. Like we care about each other, we want to win together, and it's just a next man up mentality. And so if we get all caught up in whose rotation spot's going to be this or that, I feel like we're doing our team and ourselves a disservice. We're not going to be able to perform to our best ability, and we just got to focus on the work and the day-to-day process.
So I'm not sure if you're aware of it, Cole, but the internet believes they've uncovered something that you figured out the trick of how to wear these new jerseys, which is to tuck the jerseys literally into your underwear. Is that true? Is that an actual trick that you figured out in order to combat the nature of the new jerseys you guys are dealing with?
That's the first I've heard that I've done that because I don't do that at all.
Okay. So this is something that popped up on Twitter that was a belief. You have no trick in combating. Like, you guys are all dealing with this the same way. I don't want to speak too bluntly about it because, there are standards here, but there are some maybe issues that you guys might be dealing with how things might be a little bit more seen wearing these particular uniforms.
Yeah, I think we got to focus on a little bit more than we might have in the past about that sort of thing. Um, but I'll say this, it's um, that's a problem that we can't solve and
I
it's not in our hands.
dude,
Like that's about it.
I
Like
I know exactly what you're feeling right now. It's just like, bro, I just want to pitch. Like,
yeah, like
just,
we're in that phase where all of us are in the same phase. We're like, look, we can't control that. Let's just go play ball and win games. That's
yep,
all we're focused on right now.
yep. I completely understand how you're feeling about it. We will control what we can control, and everything else will fall in line. I feel like I didn't a year ago. One of my favorite pictures of the year, the shirt that you wore that was like the Hawaiian shirt with the dog on it. Can you tell me about that?
That wasn't just one dog. That was all five of my
Those
dogs
are
I
your
have,
dogs.
or all four of my dogs. I have five now. With Foster Field one this off season. I think my wife has thought about putting my two horses on a shirt for this
Okay.
coming year.
Okay.
So it might be a horse shirt. but that to me, it was kind of fun. I didn't realize that you could put images of your family members or dogs onto a shirt, and so my wife surprised me with that, and the next day I wore it to the field, and it just happened to be photo day.
I would really love to know so I am the MC of Project Runway in partnership with Show Your Soft Side, and a couple of years ago when I did it for the first time, purchased a jacket that had Christmas cats on it, in order to wear to the event, and everybody
Okay.
loved that a great deal. But if I could get my dog, like, my kids would lose their mind if I could do this with my dog and make the shirt. So I would love to know where you got it made, because I would actually like to do this myself for emceeing Project Runway this year.
I really think that Kristen found it on like Etsy. I want
Okay.
to say it was Etsy. She
Okay.
found it on there.
Okay.
And so again, I'm curious to where she found it too, because it was a surprise, like in the mail to my locker, and I opened it up and it was all my dogs, and I'm like, what is going on? I've never seen this
Are
before.
you the type that at 5 now you're like, okay, we're good, or is there part of you that's like, we could have a sixth?
So we're good. We
Okay.
are good.
Okay.
Five is definitely plenty. Um, and we got like I said, we got two
Yeah.
horses and a mare and a colt that we
Jeez.
didn't know we were going to have a baby horse. So that happened. So with that being said, we're good on animals until maybe a year and a half from now when we're finally moved into our our property that we purchased in
Oh,
the
that's
off
cool.
season.
That's cool, man. Congratulations for that. That's awesome, man. That is a really cool thing. My wife and I live on a horse farm. It is not my world. She's all in. I don't understand any of it, but God bless her. She's happy, so that's all that matters in my life. Swervin_Irvin19 is, of course, how you can follow him on Twitter. Is it just Swervin Irvin on Instagram? Remind me, Cole.
No, it's the same
Same
thing
thing.
as
All right.
Twitter and Instagram. So that's where you can find me. I'll tentatively, hang out in my own Discord and stuff. I think it's linked somewhere in my Twitter. And then I just started a YouTube channel this off season, so I'm gonna start posting a little bit more
Awesome.
this fall. So that's gonna be fun.
That's really cool, man. I love what you do to support animals, seriously, and what I do with Show Your Soft Side. That means the world. That you guys take care of them and give them good homes that way. Looking forward to seeing you throughout the course of the season. Appreciate you hopping on with us this morning. Thanks so much for doing this, Cole.
Thanks for having me, Glenn. I appreciate it and look forward to being back on in the future.